Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Wellness Path podcast. My name is Laura Roberts. I am a trained nutritionist and wellness coach. In the podcast, we are going to discuss areas such as nutrition, wellness, fitness, mental health, motherhood, and so much more. So, if you are interested in any of these areas, please tune in, and I hope you enjoy your time here with us. Hi everyone, and welcome to our first episode in the Wellness Path podcast. Today I'm so excited for our first guest. Her name is Tilly. She is an holistic wellness practitioner and a mum, and she specialises in reiki, breathwork, cold water therapy, and so much more. And I cannot wait for her to share her knowledge with us today in how to help us manage our stress better. Tilly, thanks so much for coming on the podcast. I'm really excited to have you on today.
Thank you for having me.
So obviously I've been to quite a few of your classes so far, and you come across as really chilled, really zen, which is where I'm trying to get to at some point. And I'm really intrigued to know, have you always been that way?
No, definitely not. So up until even when I had my son, well, just before I had my son, I was really angry basically all the time. I was stressed. It was showing up like in different ways in my body and my health. So yeah, to answer your question, definitely not always been this way. So if I can do it, you definitely can.
That's so inspiring to hear, probably for myself and others, because I feel like when you're trying to go on this journey of learning how to manage your stress better and managing your emotions, and then when you come to classes sometimes you feel like people have just got it worked out and they've always been that way. So yeah, that's nice to know that you haven't. And really, would you mind sharing your journey with us on how you got to where you are today and what brought you here?
Yeah, and don't forget that I'm not chilled all the time. I do still get annoyed at things and I get angry, and I think that's normal. It's a normal emotion, isn't it, to get angry, but it's just having control of it. So I started this journey after I had my son. I just wanted him to be the healthiest, and I wanted to improve the things that I was eating and the way I was being, because I didn't want to pass that down onto him. So yeah, I just started changing the way I was eating. Started moving more, and then that's when the practices started coming in as well, like breathwork and reiki.
So I know you've said you changed your nutrition and you started moving more, and you was quite stressed and angry a lot. Like, what was your lifestyle like before you made the change? What was your nutrition like? What changes have you made?
So my diet was basically just eating whatever I wanted. I think because I wasn't putting weight on, I just thought, oh, I'm fine. So I was just eating junk food all the time, loads of chocolate. Still like quite a bit of chocolate now, more than I should be having. But yeah, my diet wasn't the best at all. And then in terms of movement, I wasn't going to the gym or anything. I have always been like quite athletic. Like in school I was quite athletic, so I was always walking to places, but I wasn't spending as much time moving as I do now. And then lifestyle, I was going out drinking and going out on the weekends, and then just spending the weekend one day drinking and then the next day just sat in eating crap food and just feeling sorry for myself. And then as well, it was like my relationships for such a long time were just so toxic. I think that puts a lot of stress on you without even realising. So yeah, my lifestyle wasn't the best.
So you was a little bit of a party animal then.
Yeah, I used to love going out.
I feel like that's where a lot of people start the journey, isn't it? They obviously having quite a lot of alcohol, just going out, and then ultimately when you're living like that, it does just make you want to eat junk food. You don't want to move as much, which then impacts your stress levels and your mental health. So you kind of get like stuck in this vicious cycle, and then once you unlock that little circle and start changing things, everything kind of all starts working together then, doesn't it?
Yeah, definitely. And don't get me wrong, going out and seeing friends and socialising, it is fun, but it depends how you're doing it. Are you doing it every weekend, and are you drinking because you're trying to mask a problem, or are you drinking just to have fun with your friends? Like, there is a difference, isn't there? Whereas I think mine was, it was every time I went through a little heartbreak, I'd just go out every single weekend, both days on the weekend, and I was just masking the way I was feeling with drinking alcohol, and then just causing more problems. And yeah, it just wasn't good.
So you mentioned about masking your problems there, which is quite interesting because a lot of people probably do try and mask the problems by living that lifestyle of drinking, binge eating, and then it gets to Monday and then we're back at work, and then, we're on a bit of a miserable few days then after having a weekend binge drinking and, eating quite poorly. What do you kind of recommend for people to, like a starting point? Can people even recognise it? What things would you suggest for them to start with on the wellness journey? If anyone's listening thinking, do you know what, that's me. I do that quite a lot and I do kind of want to change, but where do I start?
So I'd say, first of all, just be completely honest with yourself. Like, are you happy with the lifestyle you're going with? Are you happy doing the things that you're doing? Are you doing things just because your friends do it and because everyone else wants you to do it? Are you doing it because you genuinely like doing it? So I know a lot of people go into jobs because maybe their parents told them to, or they might be going out because their friends are going out, or they might do something because that's what their boyfriend or girlfriend wants to do, so they're just doing it for them. So I think it's just being truly honest with yourself, and I think a lot of people like kid themselves into thinking that that's what they want to do, when a part of them still feels like unfulfilled because they're not doing the things that they actually genuinely enjoy doing. So yeah, just start with that. And if you're unsure about it, spend some time in meditation. And a lot of people say, oh, I can't meditate, but we'll just sit there and just think about them questions then. Like, are you happy doing what you're doing? Is this what you want to be doing in 5-10 years time? Just spend that time and think about them questions and just let the answers come to you.
So you mentioned something there what kind of like hit home with me, about, are you doing things because your friends are doing it, and are you going out doing these things because everybody else is? And sometimes you might just feel a little bit like if you do change then you're going to get left behind, and what do I do then if I'm not going to get asked out with my friends because I don't want to do the same things anymore? So for instance, if you don't want to drink as much anymore, or you don't want to stay out late partying, like sometimes you've got a bit of resistance to change because you're a bit worried on how people are going to see you and if they're going to think you're boring, etc. Did you feel anything like that when you made your changes? And have you got anything inspiring for us to think about when we're making them changes, or anybody who's got them doubts thinking, do you know what, that's me, but if I try and start changing, then this is all I've ever known. I don't know what to do instead. Like, I wouldn't have any friends anymore.
Yeah, I think it's completely normal to worry about losing people, but I think anyone who's been on a journey of like self-development, you do quickly realise that you will lose people along the way, and that's just part of it. And it is hard to grasp at first, but you just realise that them people were part of your life when you was someone else. So if you want to be something different, you're going to get different people in your life, and then those who are meant to be in your life and who like genuine connections, they'll stay around whether you've got like whether you're still going out or not. So I don't think that would be a factor to stop people who actually genuinely want to be in your life just because you're not going out. I think they'd understand that you want to learn and grow and just lead a different life and just be who you want to be. Like when I started my path, I've had lost so many people. There's people who I didn't even, there wasn't even a conversation that we'd stopped being friends. We just stopped speaking, and it is, if you're not getting that support, then I just think, why do you want them people in your life? So you just got to make that choice. What do you want more? Do you want to be fully fulfilled, or do you want to just stick around being unfulfilled and doing things that you don't want to do with people who aren't being genuine? And also, when I've come on this journey, I've met so many people who are more like me and want to do things that I want to do. So I have like different groups of friends now who will go and do one thing, and then groups of friends who I can do another. So you meet more people along the way, and I think what you're doing, you attract those sort of people as well, and people who are like you.
Yeah, that's so true. You don't think of it that way. And I think that's a fear that people probably have. But then knowing that once you start them new hobbies and for yourself, how you said you wasn't doing as much movement, like say if you start to join a gym or you start to go to classes or you start going doing meditation groups, etc., then you are going to meet that new group of people and you are going to connect with them differently. And I suppose the people who are truly your friend and there for you are still going to remain through it, which I know for myself, I have had them people who have stuck through, you know, my journey with me. And I suppose you've got to just think of that, haven't you? Anybody who's genuine and really is going to be there for you is not going to mind if you don't want to go and just get, you know, really drunk every weekend and binge all weekend. They're going to, you know, want to do them different activities with you as well. So do you still drink alcohol or have you gone completely alcohol free? I'm intrigued to find that one out.
No, I don't. I say I don't really drink. I wouldn't say I will never drink ever again. So, for example, I'm going on holiday in May, and I said I might have a couple of cocktails while I'm there. So I wouldn't like rule it out completely, but I've not been drunk for like a few years, and in the past 2 years I've probably had like 3 drinks.
I'd say I'm quite similar as that now. I do have a few drinks here and there, but kind of know my limits, because if I do drink too much, then I know I'm going to pay for it the day after, both physically and probably mentally as well. I don't know if you're the same with that, but do you feel like people think you're a bit boring now that you don't drink, or that society maybe puts that view on us if we're not going out drinking, partying, then, you know, you're a bit boring, like what do you do for fun kind of thing?
At first I did. When I first used to go out and not drink, I did think, oh, people are going to think I'm boring. And I probably am being boring compared to them, but I'm quite happy being boring if it means that I'm not going to feel crap the next day. But as well, I think more people are understanding of people not drinking now. And especially because you attract, like we said before, you attract people who are similar to you, then you're getting them people who are understanding of my journey and that I don't drink. So it doesn't bother me anymore.
Yeah, and I suppose that's where you've got to just work out what your journey is. It's not to say that, you know, people who are drinking, that's an issue, but it's what's best for you in your journey. Like if you're happy going out drinking and you're happy living that lifestyle, then that's absolutely fine. However, if you are wanting to change your path and it's not suiting you and you don't want to drink as much, then, you know, that's fine as well. And it's just creating that gap in society where you can have that balance and, you know, people can do each and no one's boring either way, and people just learning to accept that on both scales a bit. Sometimes it can be a bit more one-sided towards if you aren't drinking and you aren't, you know, doing what everybody else is, then you can be seen as, you know, a bit boring or whatever.
Yeah, and you can say that about so many different things now. For example, diets, like what diet we should be eating. There's so many things on the internet now of contradicting points of, oh, you should be vegan, oh, you should be eating just meat. It gets really confusing, but I think that it's just finding out what works for you. Like if you're happy doing what you're doing and you feel good, you're not feeling anxious, depressed, stressed, and you're happy doing that, then why stop?
Yeah, I love that you've just said that, because it's not to say that you should do things this way or you should do things that way. It's more opening up the discussion on if you are having feelings of, you know, depression, anxiety, you're not happy in your life, you feel like you have got poor relationships, then there is an alternative, you know, in health and wellness to make those changes and feel better. However, I would like to try and pick your brain on this one, in that, you know, it is probably quite difficult to make those changes. It's, you know, anybody's wellness journey isn't necessarily easy, and you are going to have them ups and downs, and, you know, it can open up some wounds that, you know, people may sooner not revisit. Like, do you have any advice for us on, you know, making the changes and going on that journey?
It is a lot harder to deal with things and to grow, really, because I think that's why so many people stay in the same place all the time and they don't grow, and that's why so many people choose to not take this path, because they don't want to face the like demons, as they say, or make them changes that make them feel a little bit uncomfortable. So again, that's how the practices, for example, like cold water therapy, that's putting you in uncomfortable situations. And I think you find a lot of people who do the dips, they're on that path of self-development, and it does help you deal with them situations of like growing and being uncomfortable, but that's just part of like the journey, isn't it? So when you get to the end result, it's a lot better and you feel so much better for doing it than sitting comfortably and just not being fulfilled.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that one. I know when I try and do the cold water therapy, I can hop in, I can hop out, and it might take me a few times to get in. And it really is that mind over matter, because once you get in and you've kind of relaxed your body and I don't think I've actually felt a calm like that anywhere else. And when you're kind of in, and I know for me, I struggle to meditate, and I do struggle to just sit there and put a meditation on. And I suppose that's finding what works for you, isn't it? Like, I do enjoy the cold water therapy, and so I suppose it's just trying to find what works for me. Like, what helps me is not going to help you, and so on. And other people are going to experience that, that same kind of issue where they're trying to try a few different things out to see what helps them improve in their way.
Yeah, and that's why it's good that there's so many different practices that you can do. So if cold water therapy doesn't work for you, try breath work, try meditation or reiki or sound healing. There's just so many options that you can try. You're bound to find one that works for you. So do you think the same applies with diet then? What do you think in regards to diet and what works for people and what's best for people to eat?
Yeah, definitely. And I think this is something that's also out there a lot on social media, like you mentioned before, didn't you, that go vegan, or eat meat all the time, or cut such a thing out, eat more protein, eat more fat, don't eat fat. There's so many mixed messages about everything, and definitely I think the reason why there's so many mixed messages is that you might have an athlete, for instance, who does consume a lot of protein, and that works very well for them. And you might have someone who, has got ethical reasons for why they're vegan, or they just might want to be vegan because, they feel like that suits them better. And although there is always going to be a bit of guidelines in terms of getting your nutrition and your nutrients, if I find that consuming a bit more protein for me than what you have works, then that's ultimately why sometimes nutrition is personal, and it can't always be spread out to everyone. Some people may struggle eating something more than another. It might give them upset tummies. But again, it's just finding what works for you. Ultimately, if you're following a healthy diet and you're making sure you're not having a lot of ultra processed foods, which does bring me into actually where I want to talk about in terms of stress and how that can impact on your eating, and also how what you eat can impact on your stress levels as well. So I have just quickly mentioned there ultra processed foods. So if you are consuming a lot of ultra processed foods and your diet is quite poor in nutrients, this is going to impact on how you do feel, because it's going to impact your digestive system and your gut bacteria. And there is strong links now between our guts and our brains and how we produce our chemicals that, help with our hormones and our serotonin. A lot of them are in our gut. So when I speak to my clients, I do advise them that obviously they should be ensuring that they're having a lot of whole foods and they're limiting them ultra processed foods because of that link. But also then I do try and speak to them about how stressed they are and how that can impact the digestive system as well. So if you are constantly in that fight and flight mode and feeling stressed, then this impacts on how well your food is going to be digested. It can, your body starts to concentrate on producing cortisol and adrenaline, and it kind of puts digestion on the back burner really, which can start to lead to things like bloating, constipation, or even diarrhea. So what do you recommend if someone feels like, do you know what, I eat quite healthily, but I do still get a lot of digestive issues, and maybe it is because I'm quite stressed and I'm always in that fight and flight mode, which I think nowadays a lot of us are sitting in that fight and flight mode a lot more than we should be. I know I've been there myself after I had the kids, and I was stressed a lot, and I did suffer with a bit of digestive health from that. Again, is that something where we need to tap into those practices, and do they help to take us out of that fight and flight mode? And can you explain a little bit about that, I suppose?
Yeah, a lot of people are stuck in the fight and flight without even realizing. For example, you might be stuck in traffic and you just flip straight away. Something small happens and it just makes you angry straight away or agitated. It's because you're stuck in that fight or flight mode. So a lot of this is caused by people not doing breath work and just having bad breathing habits in general. I always tell people that a lot of people start breathing into the chest more, like on a day-to-day basis, or through the mouths. And by doing this, you're decreasing the level of oxygen that your body's getting, therefore depleting all your cells of like how much oxygen we should be getting. We hold a lot of like anxiety and stress in our chest as well. So it's good to do the breath work to get you into that parasympathetic mode, which is where you feel nice and relaxed, just to take you out of it and just feel nice and calm. But also practice them good breathing habits as well, of breathing like deep into your stomach rather than just into your chest. As well, how you mentioned like with the digestive issues, people get like bloating and constipation. But when you do the belly breathing, your diaphragm is moving up and down when you're doing the breath work, and it's like a massaging effect on your digestive organs, and it helps to like relieve constipation and bloating as well.
I'm going to definitely be recommending that to my clients now. I definitely didn't know that by doing that. And do you think it's just something that you need to keep practicing, and the more times you do it? So if you're in fight and flight mode a lot, which I know I've definitely been there, and you feel like you snap a lot quicker than you should do, and you react at things. Is that because your body's kind of used to just flipping into that mode? And is it a case of, practice makes perfect? I know sometimes I'll be in these situations and I'm snapping and I think, do you know what? I need to do a bit of breath work, and then I'll feel fine, and then I'll not do anything for ages, and then I'm back at snapping again. And is that because I'm not being consistent with, do you need to keep on doing this practice in order to like train your brain, I suppose, to learn how to move out of that fight and flight mode? And do we need to be in fight and flight mode? Is it something that we, do we need to be in it still?
Yeah, we definitely do need our fight and flight at like certain points in our life. If you need to deal with like a stressful situation, it helps with that. So it's not all bad. It's just you don't want to be stuck in it all the time. But definitely breath work is something you should be practicing like regularly. Otherwise, like you said, you just fall back into getting back into that mode and just snapping at things. So I think that's the issue now, is people think they go to one class and they're healed, where it's not. Like when you start this journey, unfortunately, like it's an ongoing thing, and it's throughout the rest of your life, and it's things to like integrate into your life, and it is a lifestyle rather than just doing it every so often, and it will genuinely help your physical, spiritual and mental health.
I suppose you could say that that's what people do with nutrition and diets as well. So it is that lifestyle change, isn't it? With nutrition, with your mental health, with these practices, and it's turning them into routines, isn't it? And having it as part of your new lifestyle and keeping on working on it to make sure you don't, slip back into those old routines, which ultimately I suppose we are going to do at some point. But I think it's learning how to manage your stress better. It's not getting rid of it, like you say. It's not never having that fight and flight mode. It's learning how we can deal with it better, which is where I feel like the practices that you help people with and you do yourself, even still to this day, is what we need to kind of just be tapping into a bit more, and, just doing it regularly along with eating healthier. It's that holistic approach, which is what I always try and explain to people. You're trying to eat healthily. If you are extremely stressed, it's never going to pair well. If you are stressed and you're not eating well and you're not moving, then ultimately they all need to be approached, don't they, in order to try and get that, that goal at the end where you're wanting that ultimate wellness and to feel, as best as you can.
Yeah, definitely. It's all a lifestyle choice, whether it's these different practices or your diet. But the problem is there's so many options now of quick fixes, and that's what people want. Like, and there's so many options. If you go on Instagram, it's fixing something in a day, or do this 2-week challenge and things like that. People are impatient and they want it now, and they would rather do something that they can have right now than wait all the life and have slow progress. Whereas that's not fixing like the root issue or the root cause, which I know you talk a lot about on your page, which is dealing with the actual issue of what's causing any problem that they may have rather than just masking it.
Yeah, definitely. And I do try and speak about, trying to get to the root cause, because same with nutrition, a lot of people do know what to eat. They know they shouldn't be eating a diet which is primarily ultra processed foods, and they know they should be eating more fruit, but there's sometimes there's issues behind that to why they're not doing it, and that can be because they are highly stressed, or they've got toxic relationships that are going on, and also even just money issues as well. We're in a climate where everything's so expensive, and it's just trying to look at all of those different avenues rather than just focusing on the quick fix and the one thing there, because unfortunately they don't always work out. And yeah, I suppose that's where you're saying the root causes with stress. Like, what kind of scenarios do you come across? I know you can't talk about personal situations, but is there a lot of different backgrounds of reasons why people are in this situation where they are eating poorly and they are highly stressed and they're living that kind of lifestyle with lots of alcohol, etc.?
Yeah, there's loads of different reasons that it could be. It could be a situation that they're in at the moment, or it could even be something from last year, like 5 years ago, 10 years ago, or even something down to the childhood. A lot of the time there's childhood traumas, which I'm sure you've probably heard of. And as a child, you take in so much, and you can hold memories and emotions and all your feelings, you can hold that in your mind subconsciously, and then that can then affect you later on in life and you don't even realize. And that might be the reason that you deal with things the way you are doing. That might be you masking the way you're actually feeling, like deep inside your subconscious. And yeah, that might be the reason why.
So do you feel like the practices that you do, can they help to try and eliminate, or is it something that we ever get rid of, or is it a case of that we have to learn how to deal with it better? Like, for example, people with childhood traumas, and they've carried it with them all their life, and it's led to these unhealthy habits and ways of living. Is it something, in terms of your therapies, is it something that we get rid of, or is it that we just need to learn how to deal with it better? Like, how does the subconscious and how does that mind work?
I think a lot of people get benefit just from understanding why you act in a certain way, and understanding, oh, this is why I act like this, and then you can deal with it from there. Because a lot of the time people get frustrated and angry, and they just think, why am I like this? Oh, it's just the way I am. Whereas if you can get back to that root of why you're actually like that and what caused it, you can start from there, and you can start different practices to help you deal with that. And you'll never ever change what has happened in the past, but you can start to change the way you react when you are triggered, for example. So yeah, it's a good starting point to know what it is that's caused these issues, and then you can work from then onwards. And it's good to do the breath work because it can help you have that emotional release, and it helps you get deep into your subconscious as well when you're in the breath work, and it can help you release those things that you've been holding on to even for years. So it's a really good practice for your physical health, but as well that getting into that deep subconscious mind and letting you get those emotional releases.
Well, I know that I'm definitely going to be, starting to do the breath work a lot more. It's been so good to speak to you, Tilly. Like, you've explained in terms of how if people are feeling like they're not happy with their lives and it's not benefiting them, then to obviously just, let's try what she said. Let's get the pad out. Let's write down what we're not happy with in our life. Could we improve our relationships, and could we be tapping into, not just nutrition and not just fitness all the time, but is there them alternative therapies out there and that wellness that we need to be tapping into to help our stress levels a lot more. I know I talk about this all the time with my clients with nutrition, like we need to be focusing on that holistic picture, and it's been so insightful to have you on and to just give us all this education that I just wasn't even aware of on how we can improve and manage our stress so much better. So Tilly, where can people get hold of you and find more information on what you do?
Well, thank you for having me. It's nice to be able to share this information. So you can find me on Instagram. It's at Wellness by Tilly. I do put loads more information on there on my stories and on my page, which is free, and you can join any of my classes. But it's just nice to be able to share so much information and the benefits of the practices that I do for anyone who may not understand or anyone who wants to get into it, and just to help people in general. The more people doing it, the better. So yeah, thank you for having me.
Oh, you're very welcome. And I will put Tilly's Instagram address in the notes below as well. And I hope everyone's got some, a bit of inspiration there from that story, that we're not all at that place, but it's totally achievable. Like Tilly's gone from, having that lifestyle where she was very stressed, going out a lot, quite angry. And now she not only just learned them practices and managed to better herself for her and her family and a little boy, she's now actually got a career in it as well. And she's very passionate about sharing that with everybody. So I hope you've all taken some really good information and inspiration from that today. And it's just to help us all, achieve that better lifestyle that we all deserve so much.